So maybe this Bullet Kalash partnership can continue throughout the season. I think you'd probably say that is our best center back pairing at the moment.
Herzlich willkommen zurück auf Schalke America. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Jack Mangan. How we doing, Jack?
Are you sure? Yeah, dude, hey, moral victory Monday for me. That's what I'm calling it, for a couple of reasons, and I'll tell you why. One, it was never a penalty. And two, hey, 4 points from 6 from our interim U23 manager. New manager hired right before international break. Lots to talk about tonight, but overall, I think pretty good vibes post Geraerts termination, which is about as good as you could hope for.
Captain Kremp in the crowd as well. Good to see you here. Yeah, lots to talk about tonight. Should be a victory Monday. We can call it a victory Monday, mostly because what Fimpel did was pretty amazing over the last 2 weeks to really galvanize us again. We're obviously going to talk about the match tonight. The game that should have been a victory, nonetheless, left a positive taste in our mouth, nonetheless. We're also going to talk about Fimpel's impact on the team over 2 weeks, and then the new man. Who the heck is he? We know he's Dutch. That's about it. But, not much other news. It's international break coming up, so, obviously we got a little bit of a break here. Other news could evolve around that time, but let's not waste any time here. Let's get into the lineups, really. Let's get into the lineups here. Let's start with the traveling team in Hertha Berlin. I made note in the briefing, the preview to the game, that there's a lot of former Schalke players on this team. Not all of them played, but there were some there in the background. In goal, they had Ernst, back four of Zufuk, Dardai, Leisner, and John Joe Kenny, former Schalke player. In midfield, they had Torstensen, Clemens, Cuisson, Sessa, and then up top you had Sherhant and Matza. You had Lucas Schuler lurking in the backgrounds off the bench. You also had Fabian Riza, who was out injured, and I think there's one other one, actually, another player that's escaping me at the moment. But nonetheless, it's a team that is injured, but they're still pretty dangerous, and team that we had to be worried about going into this one, Jack.
Yeah, Cuisson's probably the biggest name of a player that we've run into before in past lives, if you will, back in the top flight of the German pyramid. But yeah, some familiar names as well. I mean, yeah, this Hertha team has seen a lot of turnover too in recent seasons, as they've been kind of spiraling. But they're down with us now, and this was a big match, obviously, for both clubs, I think. So on the Schalke side of things, I think the notable thing for me is just the continued inclusion of the two youngsters that we've seen before, and then sort of just sort of the kind of more narrow shape, if you will, of this particular formation that we kind of went with in this one.
Yeah, it was certainly an interesting formation. Fimpel had talked about how he wanted to keep two players, two changes from what Geraerts had done, and obviously Bullet and Gruger were those changes. But in this game, we saw Anthony Adia get the start in this one. It was a unique formation. I know here it says like a 4-2-2-2. I kind of read it as a 3-5-2, the way they kind of played, because really it was Bullet, Kalash, and Merkin back there, and really a midfield five, because Moore was pushed up a lot in the game. But interesting formation. It's very attack-minded, it seemed like, in this game. We looked. I know the statistics don't really necessarily bear it, but I thought attacking-wise we look good, and the youngsters look good. To your point, Bullet really had an impressive game, I thought, in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact the kid's 18 years old, you wouldn't necessarily know it, but by watching him, seems pretty confident back there. I think both the guys have been very solid since coming in. I think Gruber's been obviously the least spectacular of the two, if you will, in terms of kind of popping off the screen with like super positive moments. But they've both been eminently, capable since coming in, and I would expect them to be a part of the squad going forward. And I think it's great that we've been able to get the look at them that we have gotten, because this is a squad that we kind of praised at the beginning of the season to be not particularly strong. And so any kind of injection of talent that you have without having to spend money is a positive thing. particularly in the back line, which we know has been an issue. So maybe this Bullet Kalash partnership can continue throughout the season. I think you'd probably say that is our best center back pairing at the moment. Would you disagree?
I would not disagree. I think Bullet and Kalash is the best way going forward. I think Bullet needs to start going forward. That's just my opinion. And Kalash is obviously our best defender, period. So, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I mentioned is I've just been pleased that Antuiaje has been getting a run in the starting lineup. He's somebody that I think early in the season, you and I consistently mentioned his substitute appearances as being positive injections of energy and also sort of like competence and possession. And so him getting a run has been positive. I think there was he's talking about it being pretty attack minded. I agree. I think there was points, in the first half where our build-up shape was more of like a 2-3-5, with the fullbacks pushed up. I thought it was interesting that Gruger was dropping between the center backs at times pretty early in the first half. He and Schallenberg kind of switched off of that over the course of the match, but good to see that kind of responsibility from the youngster too. And lots of like vertical inversions, I feel like, between Siller and Ajay, or like Yunus and Karaman and stuff, like people making overlapping runs and cutbacks. And there's just I like the freedom in some of the sequences that we saw. Part of it could just be the attitude with the team, in terms of knowing that this is not a permanent setup, and so playing with a little bit less pressure now that the manager has been fired. We're sort of in this like stasis between before the new setup kind of comes in. But I agree. It was a really positive approach against a big club.
And you mentioned the impact that we both talked about Antuiaje, and minutes into the game, we saw a combination between Silla and Antuiaje, where Silla sets up Antuiaje right in the middle of the box. He takes a shot immediately. That's what we wanted to see. He gets it wide, but it was like the intent right there, like you talked about, the attacking prowess from the team that gave us hope that, okay, this is going in a good direction. It kind of flipped the script on there just minutes later, where I had some guys that I was in the preview, I was saying these are some guys I know I'm going to be worried about. Obviously, Michael Cuisance is, first and foremost. You talked about it when it was a Gladbach and the headache he was for us. Palkor Dardai is another player too, even though he didn't start in this one, did come off the bench. Obviously, you have to be aware of former Schalke players. John Joe Candy was on the pitch, and he's had a goal already this year. He's looked good from the right back position.
He was pretty active early on.
He was. And then Sherhant and Matza, two youngsters for Hertha who are very lively, who are very good. Matza really is a playmaker, and so I was worried about all those guys. Seeing those two youngsters in the attack for the striker position for Hertha had me worried. But it was Cuisance, actually, the guy who, we both were worried about, kind of get things going. And part of it, most of it, honestly, was Merkin's undoing, not what Cuisance did, I think, because Merkin, sloppy all game, really poor game from him, gives him the position, fouls him in the box. It really could have been a penalty if he didn't score a goal, I think. But Cuisance kept going on. Merkin gets up, goes again, gets faked out again, and then Cuisance is wide open for a shot, takes a shot, and then Heckeren is really poor on that. I mean, really bad mistake by Heckeren there. 1-0, not the start that we were looking for there, but Merkin, man, he was bad on that play, and it just a sign of things to come with him.
I will say that I think Merkin had decent stretches in this game where he was helping to facilitate possession in the final third. I think he's been somewhat effective in that role, but I think overall he's been a disappointment this season. He was pretty steady last season for us, if not spectacular. And this season, I think certainly his one-on-one defending has been exposed at times. That hasn't been effective in general. Cuisance kind of ate him for lunch here a little bit. And then the goal is mostly on Heckeren, though. I mean, look, honestly, the ball's hit right at him.
Yeah.
Like kind of chest-ish high. No one needs to explain that to him. He's going to know that, obviously. But kind of a cheap goal to concede, and that's super unfortunate against a team like this. So not the way we wanted to start. But I really enjoyed the response from Schalke, which I thought was positive. I mean, had multiple decent chances at goal within 3 or 4 minutes right after that, I would say.
Yeah, and I think we saw this last week as well, and Fimpel commented it last week and then this week in the press conference after the match, how that, it's unfortunate we go down a goal, but our response is immediate, and he loves seeing that. I love seeing that. I think Schalke's reaction was immediate with them, and then, 10, 15 minutes later, we saw, obviously Yunus was in the attack, and he was involved a lot at times, tried to do too much himself, but he was linking up very well with players. Like Kenan Karaman was linking up as well. And what we saw is Karaman and Yunus doing a give and go, and two great plays. Obviously, the pass, Karaman to Yunus with a beautiful, just one-touch pass in the path of Karaman, and Karaman rockets the top corner up and over the keeper. No one's going to stop that. Beautiful goal, make it 1-1 there. Yeah, just a great play by the attack. This is the wave going with the attack. There were Merkin and Atuiadie and Silla, all of them. They're pushing up on that play, and they finally broke through the dam and scored a goal there.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about Younes is I think it's he's one of those players that when you watch him, it's clear that he has a higher pedigree than perhaps where he's at the moment. Like he comes from just his technical ability pops off the screen. How crisp he is in possession, how assured he is in possession, his ability to pick out passes before the ball even comes to him. But then, the cleanliness and the rhythm which he can execute some of these is just, I think, a level above a lot of what our players have. One of the things I was concerned with him before he came in, though, was obviously a little bit undersized, getting a little bit older, hasn't played a ton. Yeah. Is he going to be a massive liability, like physically and that kind of thing? Is he just going to be kind of walking around and then picking good passes, but not really doing a whole lot beyond that? Look, I mean, yeah, he isn't the fastest guy out there, but I'll give him a lot of credit. He actually does cover a lot of ground and makes good runs and has intelligent movement on the offensive end, is constantly in motion, trying to provide options and doing things. And, before he even played that ball to Karaman on the give and go, he actually brought down sort of like a 50-50 ball, like with shielding off a couple people with a really nice touch and kind of recycled the possession. So he was involved in that play, before that moment as well. Yeah. As you said, Karaman brings it down, give and go, one, kind of back and forth, and just ridiculous finish from Karaman. Really nice. He shows stuff like that every once in a while, he's a guy that can pull some of these like bangers out, and it just seems kind of like random for him because like you don't feel like he's that good really, but like he kind of is sometimes. I don't know. He's got a good right foot on him, man. So really good finish. Pretty unbeatable and nice response. Yeah, like I said, good momentum from Schalke prior to that, but then certainly the exclamation point there in terms of how it was achieved.
A couple of things. Younes, he there's two former Napoli players, two guys who were on a really good Napoli team. Obviously, I mean Younes, as well as Diego Demme, who's on the other side for Hertha Berlin in the midfielder too, and so they gave him really good Napoli team who were very good possession-wise and skill-wise, and so. Yeah, you see Younes still has it. Maybe, like you said, lost a step or two, but he clearly still has the touch that many of the current team members do not have. And then Keenan Karaman, we criticized him for a reason, leading up to this game because he's been non-existent. He's been kind of quiet over the last couple of weeks. He has started out in the bang. Him and Silla kind of kept it up, and he's kind of disappeared in games, even in the Munster game. But this game, he responds immediately. Maybe listens to the podcast, I don't know. But he gets that banger, and like you said, occasionally he drifts in and out of games, very like Tarota-esque, and then pulls out a banger. And like, where the heck did this come from? I could do this more. And so, hey, the captain got it, and I couldn't be more happier that we, a good response by the team there. And it didn't really take so much longer. It took 10 minutes later or whatever. Later, the attack kept going. We had a set piece. And was even a set piece? No, I think it started a set piece and the play went around. Merkin ends up beating his guy on the baseline, crosses it in, falls to Toby Moore, and Toby Moore just crushes it down the middle into the goal, 2-1. I really didn't care at that point how it went in. I literally just stepped out and stepped back in, and boom, goal happened like as I got back in. So 2-1, Toby scoring, Keenan Cameron scoring. Things are good.
I do think it was off of a corner initially, potentially, but yeah, it was Merkin ultimately getting the ball on the end line, and then a nice piece of physical play, kind of holding off his defender and finding Tobias Moore in space, back post, kind of drifting in behind the whole play. Keeper's far over to his right, so he has a lot of time to take a shot with it, and picks it out well near post, well finished. And no one's surprised that Tobias Moore hits a nice strike with a left foot. So, hey, but he's popping up on the score sheet like consistently this season. He's sprinkling in the goals, which is surprising based on his contributions last season, but super important. I mean, the more you can get those odd goals here and there from players that aren't Silla, that aren't Karaman, super important. So nice to see. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we need that depth in scoring if we're going to have any chance to do anything this season. It can't just be two guys. Even that year where we got promoted, Tarota had 30 goals, but there are other people who scored goals too, Bulter and Salazar and others. So you need that complementary. And, hey, Toby Moore, at times, again, it doesn't seem like he does anything in the game, but, he pops up and gets some play like this. And, Frank Schmidt, the manager for Heidenheim, even said, he is a lethal left foot. I don't know how lethal it is, but it's a good left foot. He's our main set piece guy other than Paul Seguin. So, yeah, good to see him on the score sheet. 2-1 at halftime. There was an opportunity too, I think, at 2-1 where it should have been 3-1 if it was anybody but Murky, and I think it would have gone in. And he gets like this breakaway. Keeper's coming out. He chips it over the keeper, and it just misses it wide. Anybody else, it would have been a goal. And I thought it went in, but I'm like, wait, what just happened? And I was like, oh, it's Merkin. God dang it.
Hey, but you got to give him credit for that. I mean,
yes,
10 seconds earlier, he was kind of close to the sideline in sort of the middle of Schalke's shape, if you will. And he slowly kind of off camera drifts interiorly and behind one of the center backs, I think like the right center back. And he's holding his run. Like he times it very well. He's staying on side, calls for it. Yeah, not the guy you ultimately want, probably taking that shot. If it's a shot with a little bit of power, perhaps, then he's the guy for that maybe as well. But yeah, the delicate stuff, perhaps not. But really good attempt, just misses it. Would have been hugely important for us, obviously. But I'm not gonna like beat down on Merkin for that. When your left back, makes that kind of a run and kind of creates that out of nothing. I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. And also, once again, Bullet as well. That's your 18-year-old center back picking out Merkin over the defense, like with a pretty accurate long ball. So that's another nice thing that's positive to see. Me, I always talk about the influence of, regardless of defending and anything else, Kaminsky's ability for distribution is a positive for this team. And we don't have that without him to some extent. And so and this is obviously not only one data point really, but that was a positive thing to see from the youngster that's coming into the mix too. So maybe if we can work in some of that gives us a little bit more versatility and build up and whatnot.
So get to halftime, 2-1, feeling good about ourselves. Second half, you knew Hertha were gonna come out, and they did. They looked more dangerous in the second half. Hertha did. We were sitting back a little bit more. We were still getting our chances as well, but I think Hertha had a lot more of the play. Eventually, the dam would break. There's a play where, obviously, loose ball in the box. You see Schallenberg go down, tackles happens, ball's there, stopped. Penalty, call penalty, go to VAR. And I'm thinking, they're going to VAR, they're obviously going to reverse this because it's clear he got the ball first. Nope. They call a penalty. The Prevlik guy who just stepped on the pitch gets in there, scores a goal, makes it 2-2. But man, that was a terrible call. That was a terrible call, Jack.
Yeah, it's a call that I thought was extremely soft at the time, and the more I watched it, the more I just became convinced that wasn't a penalty at all.
Yeah.
In general, I mean, I think he made contact with the ball. He doesn't really bring the guy down with the initial force of it. It's an awkward challenge from Schallenberg, and I think that's why it got the call initially. Is it looked weird, but yeah, I don't know if the rule is in terms of it has to be if you judged as like a clear and obvious error. I don't know if that's just a Premier League rule or sort of the application of VAR generally. In terms of, when VAR can tell an official to look at it and like reverse a call. But I guess I don't understand how he doesn't go look at that. Like, what are they talking about prior to that?
Yeah.
I mean, is that what it is? Is it really that like that the VAR has to determine that they think it was a significant like error in judgment to be able to like direct it? I don't know what the rule. It just seems crazy to me because like, I'd be like, if it's not a penalty, like surely that's an error.
I think they would go to VAR if there's like, hey, ref, you may just want to take a double check to make sure you feel like go with your call. Maybe that's what it was. And he went there. He's like, yeah,
he's like, I feel good.
For me. Not conclusive. I don't know. I
don't get it. I think it's crazy.
I don't either. William, if you're there, I want to let us know what your thoughts are on that penalty. And if you're watching right now on Twitch or Facebook or here on YouTube, jump in the chat. Let us know what your thoughts are on that penalty. I too didn't think it was a penalty. But there's one thing we always say, like a broken record: don't put yourself in a position to give that referee the chance to make that call against us. I thought it was a good play by Schallenberg, but like, damn, like unless it's going to be you're 100% sure it's going to be not questionable, don't do it. And I get it why he did it, and he's one of the guys we don't really question. But man, they got that damn penalty, and sure enough,
I'll go with you like 50% of the way on that one, just because of how awkward it looked once again. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I still think it's a bad decision from the official, and I don't understand why it wasn't evaluated further. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be angry, but I wouldn't be surprised if the DFB comes back out and says, "Oh yeah, it was our mistake again. My bad. Sorry, Schalke, once again." But Trek says it's always the ref's fault.
I mean, it's not the ref's fault that we didn't win the game. There's other chances we should have
Yeah,
converted, but it's the ref's fault that he made an incorrect decision on the penalty. It was the wrong
yeah,
decision. So yeah, it is the ref's fault on that.
yeah. So that would be the last goal of the game. We would get some chances late in the game after that, but game ends 2-2. Before we get into how we felt, I want to look at the statistics because the statistics didn't bear how I feel. Maybe it's how you bears how you feel, but XG says 1.93 for Hertha and 1.13 for us. I felt it was the opposite. Really watching the game. What were your thoughts on the XGs here and how you saw the game?
I've seen XP numbers that are different
Okay.
than this in other sources that are much tighter in general,
Okay.
and even with them being tight, the numbers for Hertha are obviously inclusive of the penalty, which should be about 0.75. So I do think that this pretty much shows that Schalke won the XG battle, or or at least it was more competitive than I think this particular graphic from ESPN looks. I don't know if this is inclusive of the penalty or not. Like I said, I think it's a pretty different number that I've seen elsewhere. Look, I think Hertha had a much better second half than we did in terms of chance creation and big chances. I think first half was open, but we had the lion's share of possession and of the better opportunities in the first half.
Yeah.
I think 2-2 is a pretty fair result on the basis of the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think ultimately, yeah, I think Hertha did come on in the second half, but it was a game I thought that was close. Again, it was the second week in a row where I felt the team was inspired, and a lot of it had to do with Fimpel, I'm sure, getting the boys up to play for the game. Overall, looking at the lineup and how the players did, I thought obviously the man that stuck out. Three things stuck out for me, and I gave my 4 takeaways there. But the defense wasn't that great. Other than I thought Thailand Bullet was fantastic, man of the match for me. I thought he was fantastic from start to finish. Great tackles defensively. That's the one thing. Like we've always seen like the offensive side of him, that potential there, and he had that in this game. He had some runs. He had some nice passes. You mentioned very Kaminsky-esque. But defensively is where we saw the change for me, where he was stopping guys left and right. He was the lone guy at some points in this game where the only defender stopping things, and he looked calm. He looked like he belonged. It looked like he belongs in the starting 11, as we mentioned earlier. And that's when I saw this game. I said he's got to be our starting center back with Kalash going forward.
Hard to disagree with. We've had such inconsistency, and the defense has been pretty porous so far. So I think any positive performances you see, you're gonna latch onto those, particularly when it's a young player as well, because that's just part of the culture at Schalke. We love it when some of our youth products come through. Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think it was Buller that probably had the better performance overall compared to Kalash, and hopefully they're on more equal footing, or it's the reverse, like it's the older guy that it's helping set the example and help the younger guy improve. But we'll take whatever we can get at this point.
And yeah, Kalash, as you just mentioned him, I think he started out very weak. His positioning, his reading of the plays, his overcommitment at times. One play, he tried to rush up the pitch and lost the ball, and then didn't make it back in time. It was poor, but he got better as the game went on. I think as the game got more and more closer, and there's a 2-1 scoreline, and Hertha were threatening, he got better and better. So that was nice to see, which is the opposite. Like, make comments, I guess, about Kalash before I talk about Merkin, because we have, I think, different opinions on Merkin. But go for Kalash there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to. It's difficult for me to determine what the fair level of expectation is for his play.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a name that obviously has some cachet because of where we've seen him play previously, and the levels of competition he's played at. But obviously, the fact that he's at Schalke currently is reflective of the fact that he's not at that place currently. Yeah. So maybe it's fair to temper that. But in terms of his age and stuff, he's not like at the end of his career necessarily. So
no.
Look, I hope that he has strong performances. I want him to be the most consistent center back on the team. I think it's kind of what we brought him in to be able to be. And so I'd like to see that. But who knows? Particularly if Bullet continues to impress, then Kalash might not be able to live up to that. It might not even be his fault, because Bullet may just straight up take it. But yeah.
Yeah, and then I agree with that. And the only thing I'll caveat what I'm going to say about Merkin with, I don't think he should lose his position because of what he did last year and his potential going forward, how he contributes to the offense. But defensively, he's just been getting reamed the last couple of weeks, and people are just catching him on his weaknesses. His positioning's been bad. His pace hasn't been good. Or maybe he's going against pacier wingers, and he's looked extra bad. It seems like, yes, he has contributed, but even offensively for me, like, he was up in the attack and he contributed. Obviously, the goal with Moore, he was heavily involved in, but like sometimes you would see like a really quick 1-2 passing with Schalke, and they're coming down the left-hand side trying to increase the play. And every time we got to Merkin, it kind of gets fumbled around and kind of ruins the flow a little bit for me. So I wasn't too impressed by Merkin in this game, but the effort was there. And like I said, I don't think there's anyone on the team who could be replacing him at the moment because we don't have anybody at the moment that can supplant him. So
yeah, Donker tends to play further up the pitch.
He's been unimpressive too.
Yeah, he hasn't made the most, I don't think, of his minutes, and he's maybe more like a wing back than a straight up left back. Yeah, and you're not going to get any arguments from me on Darren Merkin. I think he's been disappointing relative to what we would have expected for him this season. I would disagree slightly with this being as bad of a game for him. I viewed the game slightly differently, but I agree with your take in general. And yeah, the question is, who comes in and kind of takes his spot, who supplants him in the lineup? That's the question you have to answer, and I don't know if there's an answer to that at the moment, unless you want to go to like, Tobias Moore or something on that side with Iden on the right side. But like, we'll see.
And the new manager will play something in this too, because I liked how the 3-5-2 was, because you had all these guys in the midfield to really help fuel the attack. So I thought the attack looked pretty consistent in this game with the 4 or 5 guys you saw up there, even 6, including Merkin. But the new guy plays a 4-3-3, and so what kind of formation will he do? I don't know. So that to be determined. But overall, the attack, I like the attack in this game. I thought they worked really well together. Etu Adier was a nice change from what we had seen, I think, previously. I think his addition plus Eunice getting more familiar with the team, the link up with everybody else, it seems to be that much better.
Yeah.
When Seguin comes in, it'll be I would imagine Gruger sits back and he gets in the midfield with Schallenberg. Bachmann probably has to earn his way back in there unless you're putting Schallenberg into defense. And I can't see it now because I think Bullet and Kala should be the center back pairing. So I don't know. But it's a good problem to have, I think, for Van Wonderen going forward. So yeah, overall not bad performance, I think, by the boys.
I agree.
So where does that put us in the table? I forgot I was still sharing.
13th, I want to say.
Yeah. We got a point out of that one. Hertha are up to 9th. We got 1 point, obviously, and we are up 13th on 8 points. So okay, we're not bad, mid-table ish. A little bit of cushion between us and Darmstadt. I mean, a little 2 points. It's a cushion though, so I'll take it for now. International break, and then we obviously got some. I don't know who we got out the gates coming up here. Let's see here. We got Hanover 96 coming up on Saturday the 19th at Hanover, and then Greuther Fürth the week after that, which 2 of our trickier games compared to who we just played, but doable still. I think still doable. We just got to see how the new man, gets us and going. So yeah, overall 2 games of Fimpel. Good results. Like I said, should be a victory Monday. We feel like it's a victory Monday, minus that bad call, but 4 points for these 2 games after the Geraerts thing. I think we couldn't have been. Oh, we would have gotten better if it did 6 points. I feel pretty good about the 4 points. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what I said at the top of the podcast. I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I think that's a better 2-game stretch than Geraerts had all season before he got fired. In terms of the consistent back-to-back, I think we won the first game and then lost a number of them in a row. You know what I mean? So Anyway, 4 points was close to 6. I don't think it would have been undeserved if it had ended up being 6. So look, it sounds like he had impressed a little bit, in his station at the U23s. Doesn't have a coaching license, which I didn't realize initially, but he was never an option at the moment to be giving the post permanently. He doesn't meet the requirements, but he was allowed to obviously take over, that caretaker manager role. Good experience from him in sort of that. I'm not saying there's no pressure. I mean, anytime you get the opportunity to take the reins at a club like that, there's pressure. There's eyes on you. But knowing that the permanent position wasn't going to be offered with him, opportunity for him to kind of be in that environment without that ultimate pressure. I think the players felt that. It certainly seemed like it. I thought we were a little bit looser and just more attractive in general under him. So I liked what we saw, and I'm obviously interested to see what the new man brings in. But I think anytime you're kind of like, hey man, we're kind of cooking a little bit under the, it's kind of funny and probably a positive for him,
Yeah, and it's an interesting comment that you just made there because the team felt like a little bit looser there. Maybe there was a friction between, well, there was obviously a friction between Geraerts and Manga. One of the comments Fimpel made at the last press conference is that he's like, hey, when Ben Manga calls, Ben Manga asks me to do something, I will do it. I'm not going to question it. And like, you didn't get that much from Geraerts. Geraerts is like, this is my team, not your team. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think the team did feel galvanized. I feel like Karaman's performances did dip in the last couple of weeks, maybe because there was that tension there, and he's caught in the middle as a captain. Yeah, I think Fimpel. What we saw in Fimpel, what we didn't see in the Geraerts, I think, was 2 weeks in a row the same center back pairing, Bullet and Kalash, both weeks in center back. Which we didn't have that at all with Geraerts in the whatever previous weeks. So you got that going right there, and the same midfield pairing too with Schallenberg and Gruger. So hey, consistency does matter in these kind of situations. Yeah, so I have a question for you with Fimpel, Jakob Fimpel. He's only been here 2 weeks. Obviously, he's with the U23, so he has been with the team for a while, but he's only managed the team for 2 weeks. What do you make of the impact and the reaction you had, not only from the Schalke team, players, but also the fans, where like he's here for 2 weeks and everyone's like, "Oh man, thank you so much. You've been great to us." The praises for him in such a little amount of time. What do you make of all that?
I think it means we're a cheap date collectively as a Schalke fan base, probably more than anything. But no, but like that, it's what I said a minute ago. It's that he came in with a lot of positive energy. You saw him, smiling and being pretty emotive in a positive sense on the sidelines. Trying to model that positive energy. It's very easy for Schalke fans to spiral and be very doom and gloom. And obviously, the way the season was going under Geraerts, it was easy to feel that way.
Yeah.
Comes in, stops the bleeding. 4 points from 6, as we said. The team is playing more attractive football. They're playing a little bit looser. You feel that. Of course, people are going to be thankful for his brief stint. I think it's a great experience for him. I think we now know that if they continue to support him in his progression in his coaching career and help him achieve a license, then, if he doesn't end up leaving to go actually be a manager somewhere else, then we'll potentially have him in our back pocket to promote later down the road when he has the necessary credentials if we need him. Overall, I thought it was a great little stint. I'm obviously excited to see what Wonderen does when he comes in, but positives all around.
Last thing I'll say on Fimpel is that we heard a lot about his rah-rah speeches, prior to him joining the team, and you saw it firsthand, and it obviously worked. He's passionate, and they asked him, I think in the last press conference, are those like, do you wing those, or how do those come about? He's like, no, I have a theme that I'm going in with every speech that I'm saying, and then my passion takes over, and so that's pretty cool here. And I was very impressed by him, not only as a manager, but his press conference was very coy, very astute, was understood when the reporters were trying to bait him into an answer, and he just never fell for it. I love seeing that. If I'm Schalke, if I'm the hierarchy, sign this guy to a long-term deal, get him his licenses as soon as possible, and if there is ever need to get a coach, go after him, because I think he could be somebody you could build off on. Obviously, he needs some more time in U23 to even build it further, but get him that license, lock him up, and then, like you said, he'll be in the back pocket should you ever need it. But he is out back to the U23s, not out of the team, but back to U23s, in steps and peeked his head out, I guess. We all realized who he was. This kind of happened with Geraerts as well, where during the game, you see the new man just in the suites is sticking his head out, and everyone immediately people took pictures. It's Kees van Wonderen, Dutch manager, former PSV player. As you mentioned, managed the youth teams in the Netherlands with Ronald Koeman. He was also with the Go Away Eagles, got them promoted, so he has some relegation experience. Kept Go Away Eagles in the Eredivisie in the second year. Went to Herenveen and did okay there. So he comes in. He had a press conference today and a Q&A, which is interesting. Normally these coaches just bring him in and just do a press conference and that's it. They actually did a Q&A with the fans online, which is interesting. A little wrinkle, maybe the sign of the times with social media. But some of the quotes from Van Wonderen in the press conference today, he says, it's important for me to have a challenge, and that's what I've got here at Schalke. I fully identify with the role. I don't need any easy tasks. He continued on saying, the whole club has made a good impression on me, including the staff, my assistant, Robert Molinar, who came over with him, and I have known each other for a long time. I'm the one with the responsibility, but we will do everything as a team. That's important to me. He says, I'm going to hold the players. I told the players this morning that it's a privilege to play at a club like this. Competition for places is another factor. You can only improve if you push one another, and to be better is this is what we need to be. And then lastly, he says, I like to work with young players, not just because they're young and talented. They're prepared to improve every day, something that isn't dependent on age. An older player can also give me this kind of energy. So you already get all the themes that Ben Manga had been talking about for a while. This is a guy that it was on nobody's bingo card going forward. Everybody is spreading all these rumors about who may be the next guy here. No one mentions this guy whatsoever. Kind of goes to speak about what Ben Manga has done now and had been doing since he got here. Doesn't really leak much. It's just people come up all of a sudden, oh, I didn't see that coming. But thoughts on the new man, the guy who will be playing more likely a 4-3-3?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not surprised it was one of the bigger, flashier names that were being thrown out there. I wouldn't be surprised if some of those were thrown out by Manga or the team internally anyway to just kind of distract from the actual evaluations that were happening, just create a lot of smoke in the distance that you can kind of work silently in the background on. So I'm not surprised it was a name that we weren't really talking about last week or the week before. I mean, first of all, I just want to say, go ahead, Eagles. One of the better names in world football for sure for clubs. Yeah. Hilarious. Yeah. Love that every time I see it. Anyway, I'm sure there's history there that I'm being extremely ignorant of. Anyway, yeah, I think in the chat just now, there's a comment that summarizes how I feel to some extent quite well, which is that I've gotten so cold with all these phrases. I just want to see results. It's fine. Any manager can come in and say any number of platitudes, and it's not going to matter all that much. Yeah, until we see results on the pitch.
Yeah.
That being said, for what it's worth, addressing some of the things you said, yeah, sure. I mean, like the fact that he mentioned, how much he enjoys working with youth players. Great. We have a couple of them that have just recently broken to the squad. As I mentioned before, the youth development and progression is a part of the culture. And if he's somebody that can help continue to support that and buy into that and foster that, great. I mean, that's part of the, the Schalke way or whatever. I think the fact that he personally, and then also his right-hand man, whose name escapes me, you just mentioned a second ago. Both of them were center backs in their playing days. So these are people that presumably know and understand that position on a very personal level, not just, tactically top in, but actually from that position, what it takes, the things you need to work on. I think that's going to be hopefully a benefit, obviously.
Certainly for Bullet.
For Bullet, yeah, first and foremost as a young player stepping in, but to the back line of the defense in general, which, as we said, has been a sore spot for us early on. So, I'm looking forward to see what shape he ultimately goes with. I know we talked about his history with the 4-3-3, whether or not he adjusts that at all, given the personnel that we have. But yes, look, certainly seems like a name that Ben Manga has been familiar with for a while, and so somebody that he has confidence in and is excited to be working with. And once again, also seems like Ben Manga had, as we expected, significant level of influence over who ultimately was on the names. Obviously, some conversations with the board to kind of agree on what they're looking for in terms of a coaching profile. But when it came down to the actual candidates, I'm sure Ben Manga was, pretty heavily involved in securing this guy. Yeah,
Van Wonderen said, I believe in total football is very, very Dutch there. They play a 4-3-3, a 4-3-3 in the attacking sense, but it's also, he believes very much in defense. Like you said, he and Molinar are center backs by trade. And so, we'll see what they can do. He'll have 2 weeks to kind of get the team prepped, or not even 2 weeks, 12 days to get the team prepped before the first game, managing them. And so it'll be interesting to see. Hanover's a good test, as will be Greuther Fürth. So how can we build upon this? I think Fimpel gave a good outline of what this team could be. You just got to mold it to his system, obviously, and what he's looking for. But I think everything that Manga said he was looking for, what I've read from Van Wonderen, it's exactly what he wanted. Like you said, heavily influenced, and hopefully it's a good change. Like with anybody else, going to give it a chance and see how it goes. But to be determined. But I'm all for it. We all got to support him at the moment, right? So
there we go.
All right, that's all we got for tonight. International break, and then we'll be back on the game. We'll be back on the 19th against Hanover at Hanover. Obviously, we'll do the preview before the game, and then the review after games, and then podcast. You can do anything during the international break? Just watch Bears.
It's a big international break for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
The first international window with Pochettino at the helm. Unfortunately, an injury-laden roster with Gio Reyna and Balogun going down in the last couple of days. But your boy Pulisic from your beloved AC Milan on fire at the moment. So yeah, I'll be watching international soccer. Don't always do that every international break. This will be one where I'll have the soccer still turned on in the absence of Schalke. How about you?
Yeah, definitely gonna check that out. And then really just catch up on reorganizing my house now that actually got the contractors out of here. I can actually reorganize now and get ready and watch some more football. I guess just watch a lot of football, both American and European. So a lot of that going on. So we both have good reasons to watch the American football these days. So all right, just get on out of here. That's it. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMManGAN on Twitter.
Let's see if I can do better this time. You can follow me at R_KHARMAN all across social media. More importantly, follow us at Schalke America all across social media, including Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. If you haven't done so already, make sure you follow, like, subscribe to the video. It'll be much appreciated. Share it with your fellow friends. Spread the word of Schalke America. We're here to help bring the community together. And join our Discord. Our Discord is a good group there. We always chatting during games and in between games as well. So shout out to them and those on Facebook as well. So, all right, Jack, for Jack and myself, enjoy the international break and learn up on Van Wonderen. Look out.